Saints Row is a painfully generic open world malaise. The Saints are back in one of the most dated and bug-ridden open world games of the last decade. Our overwhelming takeaway after finishing Saints Row was how badly the open world genre needs Grand Theft Auto 6. How the genre is so past the point of relevance that it needs the flag bearer for the open world action game to once again provide the roadmap forward. Because between Saints Row's lifeless city, terrible shooting and lackluster characters, and a high frequency of bugs, this really does feel like the end point for this style of open world action. The premise of this reboot is that you're tasked with building the Saints from the ground up in the city of Santo Ileso, a Las Vegas-ish open world that fails to capture the liveliness due to a population density that will make you wonder if the game is set after the end of the world. Johnny Gat, Jondi and Kinsey are gone, replaced with Kev, Eli and Nina. Despite some rough dialogue in early missions, they aren't overly offensive. The story is extremely bland, with every twist and turn visible from the International Space Station. But in a rare positive note, the missions themselves are generally tasking you with doing something a bit different each time, although most of that involves the shooting, which brings us to our next point. The shooting in Saints Row is dreadful. No matter what combination of sliders we tried, we couldn't aim in a way that felt satisfactory. It just drains every combat-focused mission of fun. There's a good variety of weapons, and you can even adjust the gameplay in menu to make enemies take fewer bullets to kill or increase the frequency of tough baddies. But when the shooting is this bad, it's little consolation. There's a flow system in which players fill a meter to allow them to pull off certain special moves like throwing a grenade or dropping a smoke bomb. This flow system feels like a last minute restriction to stop people absolutely hammering the broken special moves. It doesn't actually encourage dynamic play. But the thing most people are asking is, does it do the Saints Row stuff? And by that do they mean, is it anarchic? Can you make the character look like a total idiot? Is insurance fraud in the game? And the answer is complicated. There is a bit of that silliness in the game. For example, the taunt system is great for childish mischief, especially when you can do the wanker gesture during most dialogue, even while running. Some of the beloved Saints Row side quests are also in the game, like insurance fraud, this time in the form of side hustles and businesses that you're also building as your empire grows. There's actually a lot to do in the game, but it's just such open world number checking. Even the stuff that sounds good on paper, like the permanent wingsuit that allows you to bounce off pedestrians' heads to gain altitude, doesn't work quite right. There are large sections of Saints Row that could be written off as generic, inoffensive open world fluff, if not for the parade of bugs that greeted us throughout our time with the game. From the world not loading incorrectly, leaving us dangling in the shadow realm, to characters T-posing, to the sniper rifle scope being permanently plastered onto the screen, it's an incredibly unstable game. The frame rate on the PS5 version is also completely erratic. Speaking of visual performance, Saints Row is a very strange mix. Not if all of the world design, characters, set pieces look like they could be from an early PS4 game, but strangely the lighting in the game, specifically in the open world, is unbelievable. It's such a weird contrast to go from a city that looks like it could have been from the GTA Definitive Trilogy to these lighting and weather effects that are absolutely top notch. However, we don't think many people are coming to Saints Row Reboot for the lighting. Playing Saints Row was such a strange experience. The first night we got the game, we played it for a few hours, and outside of the lackluster shooting, we thought, this is fine, it's very dated, but the character creator is amazing, and it's got some good childish crudeness about it. But as the game went on and we visited more of the city, it really made us stop in our tracks. The open world genre, specifically these kind of games made in the shadows of GTA, are currently at their absolute low point. It feels like just after GTA 4 and GTA 5, there was an arms race to see who can make the game that would be the best GTA-like. And funnily enough, Saints Row the 3rd was that. But since then, there's been a ceasefire as companies realised that just having a city to run around and do crime in isn't as mind-blowing as it was in the early 2010s. This Saints Row revival feels like a game that was completed in 2015, then wasn't released for some reason, only to resurface now, 7 years later. Dated doesn't begin to cover it. When the game was first shown, there was such an outcry about whether the game had gone woke or in some other way had modernised to make it so it wasn't a Saints Row game, you do not need to worry about modernisation here. It's a below average open world game that's stuffed to bursting with bugs, and the best thing that we can say is that making our Tobias Fünke-inspired character crouch over and do the wanker gesture while he walked down the street made us laugh. Probably not quite worth the price of admission. VGC gives Saints Row 2 out of 5.